Okay, so imagine this. Did you know there's a tiny gene found in Panama that could potentially rewrite what we think we know about human history and survival?
Yeah, it's this thing researchers are calling the Panama gene, and it's said to carry secrets about ancestry, about how humans adapt to really extreme environments.
It sounds fascinating, but I've also heard it described as rare, controversial even.
Definitely. Rare, controversial, maybe even misunderstood. That's sort of why we're doing this deep dive, right?
Exactly. We want to unpack why this gene is causing such a stir, look at the sources, and figure out what makes it so special.
Okay, so where do we start? I think the first thing is how it acts like a time capsule, a genetic one.
A time capsule, how so?
Well, geneticists, they've traced it back thousands of years, and it shows this direct link between indigenous Panamanian groups and some of the very first human migrations into the Americas.
Wow. So it's like a fingerprint from the past, basically.
Precisely. And what's really striking is how common it is within these groups. Some studies show like over 60% of indigenous Panamanians carry variants of this gene, variants you just don't see commonly elsewhere.
60%, that's huge.
It is. And these genetic markers, they seem to connect populations from both North and South America. It makes Panama look like a literal genetic bridge.
Okay, so not just some local quirk then. It's actual evidence of how people moved across continents, how they survived.
Yeah, exactly. It helps paint that picture of movement, adaptation, survival. It really reshapes part of that ancient story.
Which naturally leads you to think about, well, what advantages did it give them, in that specific environment?
Right. And that's where the health and survival traits come in. That's maybe the most fascinating part for researchers now. They've found links between this gene or these variants and adaptations in immunity and metabolism.
Immunity and metabolism. Okay, so what does that mean in practical terms, like actual health benefits?
Well, some studies are showing potentially like a 35% lower rate of certain chronic diseases in the indigenous groups who carry this variant.
35% lower. That's a really significant difference. What kind of diseases are we talking about?
We're looking at conditions that are, pretty widespread globally now, chronic
Mhm.
stuff. And the hypothesis really is that these immune adaptations might have helped fight off infections, in tropical climates especially,
Makes sense.
and the metabolic changes, maybe help them get the most out of specific local diets.
So this could have implications for modern medicine then, beyond just understanding history.
That's the hope for some, yeah.
Yeah.
Could it give us clues about how genes protect against disease?
Mhm.
Or why some populations, respond differently to certain treatments? It opens up possibilities.
It sounds almost too good to be true, though. Usually in science, there's another side to this story, right?
Yeah?
Is everyone convinced this single Panama gene is the key?
Ah, yeah, good point. No, not everyone is convinced. That's where the controversy really heats up. Some scientists argue it's being maybe overstated.
Overstated how?
They suggest that what's being called the Panama gene might actually just be a cluster of related genetic variants common to
Yeah.
the region, not one single unique marker doing all the work.
So more like a regional signature than a specific breakthrough gene.
Kind of, yeah. It raises questions about how we define these things, how we label them. It's a valid scientific debate.
And I imagine there are ethical issues wrapped up in this, too, especially when dealing with indigenous communities' genetic data.
Absolutely. Huge ethical considerations. I mean, the big questions are, who owns this data? Should big pharma companies profit from indigenous DNA? How do you ensure fair benefit sharing?
These aren't new questions, are they?
Not at all. And there's history here. In Panama, specifically, back in the early 2000s, there was significant pushback. Indigenous leaders protested some genetic studies pretty forcefully. They called it biocolonialism.
Biocolonialism, that's a strong term.
Yeah,
What does it mean in this context?
it refers to exploiting genetic resources, traditional knowledge, often from indigenous groups, usually for commercial profit, without proper consent or, giving back equitably.
So it's a reminder that this isn't just lab work. There's a whole history of power dynamics, exploitation, identity tied up in this.
Exactly. The
Mm.
sources emphasize that. It's science, yes, but it's also ethics, power, who gets to tell the story, who benefits.
Which brings us back to the bigger picture. If we see this gene or these variants as part of the larger human story, it feels like a really important piece, doesn't it?
It does, like a missing puzzle piece, maybe, for understanding how humans spread through the Americas.
Without it, the picture's sort of incomplete. With it, you get new insights into resilience,
Yeah.
diversity, survival against the odds.
Yeah. And you know what's really stunning? A fact that kind of stops you in your tracks.
What's that?
Geneticists estimate that less than 0.2% of all the DNA data we have globally include sequences from indigenous Panamanians.
0.2%.
Wow. Yeah. It means we're barely scratching the surface of what this could tell us. There's so much we probably don't know yet.
Okay, so we have this incredible potential. On one hand, understanding history, maybe finding medical clues, but on the other hand, we have these serious scientific debates and maybe more importantly, these deep ethical concerns and historical wounds. How do you balance that?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Scientists, well, many see the potential to really transform our view of human evolution, health, history, the whole package. But historians and ethicists, they remind us you have to respect the people behind the genes, the communities, their history, their rights.
Otherwise, we risk just repeating the same old mistakes, exploitation disguised as progress.
Exactly. Finding that balance is crucial.
Yeah.
And it's not easy.
So it really leaves you, the listener, with a tough question to ponder, doesn't it? Well, what do you think? Should we push forward, try to unlock everything this genetic treasure might hold, knowing all the complexities? Or is there a point where protecting it, maybe shielding it from the global spotlight, becomes the more important thing to do?